I'm going to tell you literally everything that makes you more likable. I'm going to tell you every single hack, method, whatever you want to call it, of making you more likable. So break this video down and watch it over a course of a week, or not. You don't have to do that. Before I start, it's very important that I preface this video by saying there's no better way to be likable than to be human. Now, you might be wondering what I mean by that. Me too, but we'll both find out, I think. Let's get started. Number 1, the mirror exposure effect. This one is pretty straightforward. The mirror exposure effect is a psychological phenomenon where people will develop a liking or disliking for something merely because they're familiar with it. That was literally from Wikipedia, right here. Anyways, what does this mean? The more you see someone, the more familiar they are to you, the more you'll like them. Pretty simple. Moving on to number 2. Number 2, the
Propinquity.
Number 2, the propinquity effect. This is basically the same thing as the mirror exposure effect, except it states that familiarity doesn't have to be in person. So even just texting or interacting online is enough to trigger the mirror exposure effect. Nice. So they're both the same thing. Number 3, the cheerleader effect. I added a little drawing for you guys. This effect states that people are perceived as more attractive when they are seen in a group with other people rather than alone. So this is Bob when he's with his friends, and this is Bob when he's alone. This Bob looks more attractive than this Bob because he's with his friends. I don't know, it just works like that. If you want me to go into detail, then let me know in the comments. But it's kind of boring stuff. Number 4 is the Pratfall Effect. The Pratfall Effect is a double-edged sword because when a person of high competence makes a mistake, then their liking goes up. So let's say this guy's like a doctor, right? And he trips on air. He's seen as more likable than before because he's already competent because he's a doctor, but he made a clumsy mistake, which makes him seem human, which we like. But on the flip side, if a bum, right? If the average person just like tripped and fell, oh my drawings are horrendous. If the average guy trips and falls, right? Their liking will, on the flip side, decrease. So this Pratfall effect only works to increase your liking if you're already seen as competent. So that could be competent in status or at a certain skill. Let's say you're really good at math, right? But you make a simple math mistake. That will make you more attractive because you're already competent, but you made a clumsy mistake. Number 5, we have to talk about the halo effect. The halo effect kind of also explains the Pratfall effect. Let's take the same example. Right? But instead of the difference being in status, let's say the difference is in physical appearance. How do you think your physical appearance will change how the Pratfall effect goes into effect? Just imagine it, right? Let's say this really attractive person is just walking on the sidewalk and they trip on something, right? To most people, you're gonna think, wow, that's kind of cute that they tripped on like air, right? But imagine the same scenario for someone that's chopped. Let me rephrase. Let's imagine the same scenario for someone that's less conventionally attractive. We won't have the same reaction we gave for the person that was physically attractive tripping to this other person. We're gonna think more in the lines of, oh, what are they doing? Like, what's wrong with them? Which is actually quite unfortunate, but I guess start improving your physical appearance just because of how important it is due to the halo effect. Yeah, in conclusion, upgrade your appearance. That's about it. Number 6. This is where it starts to get interesting. We're moving on from the core and standard effects that we're already used to hearing, and we're gonna learn about some real social science. Fluency Heuristic. That sounds fancy, but It's pretty simple. The fluency heuristic states that if something is easier to understand and process, our brains tend to value it higher than something that's harder to understand. Meaning, the better you communicate an idea, the more it will be perceived as important. Now, imagine that I said that entire thing like this. Fluency heuristic is something that's understanding, our brain tends to value higher than something that's hard to understand. You see the difference, right? The easier time that you have in understanding what I'm saying, the more likable I'll be. If I mumbled and spoke quietly the entire video, you guys would probably hate me. Or not hate me, hopefully, but, like me less. Pretty interesting, right? Number 7, the cognitive load theory. Now, this is literally the same exact thing as this. It's just reworded differently. This theory states that we tend to like people that don't drain our mental resources. So people that are super erratic or super high energy, high tension, their stories are overly complex. We don't really like that. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Number 8, the uncertainty reduction theory. I'm going to draw you guys a graph so it's easier to understand. So the y-axis is the amount of uncertainty you have about a person, and the x-axis is the amount of liking towards the person. The less uncertain you are about a person, the more you are to like them. So then how do you lessen the uncertainty so that they like you more? Here's another graph. This is the second graph. The more similar you are to a person, the less uncertain you will be about them, because the more similar you are, the more you can predict their behavior and their thoughts. And humans like other predictable humans. So, in conclusion, the more similar you are to someone, the more you'll understand each other and the more you'll like each other. Some of you are probably thinking, well, one of my closest friends were really different, so how can you explain that? And that's a fair point. So that's why similarity isn't the only way to reduce uncertainty. Another way to reduce uncertainty is through conversation and through talking. The more you get to know someone, the more expected their behavior will be, and the more your brain will perceive that as something positive. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9, the Similarity-Attraction Hypothesis. Now, this sounds really similar to the last one, and it is. The Similarity-Attraction Hypothesis is just adding on to the fact that you are more attracted to people that are similar to you. The important takeaway here is that your moral values and principles are the most important factor that has to be similar in order for you and another person to like each other. And then comes personality, and then comes the demographic. So what does this mean? This means that I will be more inclined to like a white girl that has similar values as me over an Asian brother who has completely different moral principles as me. Social identity theory. Have you ever noticed how when you're in a team, the other team seems less likable than your own team? Well, that's because of this guy. Well, it's not really because of him, but he explains it with the social identity theory. He says people within your group seem more likable than people that are outside your group. And he calls this in-groups and out-groups. This is a pretty basic principle in sociology. A lot of the times you favor people within your group, and you're more likely to perceive people outside of your group more negatively. The social threat theory. This theory claims that people are constantly evaluating others for potential threats to their social status, personal identity, and sense of belonging. In a nutshell, it means that you should foster an environment of psychological safety if you want to be more likable. So how does this apply? This means be less judgmental and less competitive. Imagine this. You're in a group setting and you start talking about yourself and you say, well, I've been going to the gym lately. And someone in the group just goes, oh, well, I've been going for a couple of years now. It's like they chose the worst option out of all the dialogue options, because why would you even turn that into a competition, right? So our brain is constantly looking for things like that. And the people that pose a threat to our sense of belonging or personal identity and status, they will be less likable. Which leads us to number 12, the self-verification theory. We like people that affirm our beliefs about ourselves. What does this mean? When you live long enough, you're going to come across a person that says, "Oh, I'm so ugly." Well, it's very important that you agree with them. Probably not in this situation, but people naturally prefer other people that affirm their self-belief, even if it's negative. So if this guy goes, "Oh, I'm so ugly," rather than saying, "No, you're not, why would you say that?" You should instead say something along the lines of, "Well, looks are subjective." Because if you say, "No, don't think that way," it intrudes on their own self-belief, and we don't like that. We'd much rather have someone agree with us, but obviously you shouldn't say like, "Yeah, I know you're ugly." Number 13, affect regulation theory. This theory states that people prefer others who can help regulate their own emotions. So calm people feel easier to be around with, and more energetic people and unpredictable people feel much harder to be around with. So I guess nonchalance is king. Number 14, interpersonal synchrony theory. People prefer other people who can match their speech, pace, posture, and rhythm. So if there's one person who speaks really quick and blah 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 blah, right? Blah 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 blah, then they would also prefer someone that can reciprocate that and also go blah 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 instead of like a wah wah wah. I don't know what sound effect that was. And humans naturally do this. This is called the chameleon effect. This basically is our unconscious copying of other people's actions so that we can fit in. That's why when you hang out with your best friend for so long, you start to inherit their certain personality traits or certain characteristics of your best friend, because we naturally tend to copy them even outside of their presence. Get your money up theory. Just kidding, I made that up. This is actually the prestige versus dominance theory. Prestige increases likability as long as it's not dominating the other person. We usually don't like our bosses, even though it's high prestige, but we may like other people's bosses because we're not directly under their influence and their dominance. So that's why I said get your money up theory, because you gotta get your status up so that you're more likable. Or you don't have to, but it's one of the ways to be more likable. Number 16, the
Affiliative.
The affiliative human theory. This basically just states that the best type of jokes are the ones that don't put other people down. And it also states that humor is a big factor in being likable. So the funnier you are, the more likable you are. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Number 17, the conversational turn-taking theory. Sounds interesting, but it's real. This is a given. Don't interrupt people, because it signals sociability. Humans want to be around other sociable humans, which leads us to, I'm not even going to try to say this, but just look at this chart. These are the 4 most important things to watch out for in your conversations. Quality, don't give false information. Quantity, say enough, but not too much. Manner, be clear and orderly, not jumbled. Relation, stay relevant to the topic. Don't say anything irrelevant because it will make the other person hate you. Not hate you, but yeah, they'll be annoyed. 19, reciprocal disclosure effect. When someone shares something intimate and personal with you, there's an expectation that you also disclose something of the same level. If they're the only one being vulnerable, and vice versa, if you're the only one being vulnerable, then the liking mutually goes down because you guys aren't on the same level of intimacy. And it would make one or both of you uncomfortable with the situation and the person. Guys, we did it. We made it to the last one. And this one's not even directly related to how likable you are, but I thought it was cool, so I wanted to show you guys. Number 20. This one's really interesting, and it explains a lot of choices made by humans in general. Have you ever had someone tell you not to do something, which in turn made you want to do it more? It's literally because of this guy. Okay, again, it's not because of him. He explained it pretty well. This theory explains that when people perceive that their freedom of choice is threatened, they experience an unpleasant motivational state to restore that freedom, often by doing the opposite of what they're told or by resisting the restriction. That explains why I often feel more motivated to do something when someone tells me not to do it. Well, how does this apply to being more likable? Since we know that we shouldn't threaten people's freedom of choice, we should avoid micromanaging other people's decisions or choosing for them. It's best to have the other person choose for themselves. At all costs, avoid forcing a choice upon someone, because that will alert their brain and put them in a very unpleasant motivational state. So for example, if I said, guys, go like this video and subscribe right now, you guys would probably feel more inclined to not do that, right? But if I instead said, please, if I instead said something like, well, if this video was helpful in any way or entertaining, then I hope you guys can support me by pressing the like button and subscribing. Then maybe you guys will feel more inclined to do it. But because I'm saying this, you guys will probably not do it. And then you'll do it because I said you guys won't. And then, wait. I would really appreciate if you I would really appreciate if you showed your support. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as well. It was a long video. Wow, that's a lot. And also, if you made it this far, you are crazy. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that's about it. I'll be making more fun videos in the future, and I'll see you around. See ya.